We have everyone present this evening. Public comment announcement. Pursuant to board policy number 2350, public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person or 30 minutes per topic. All speakers who would like to comment regarding a matter on the meeting agenda must submit a public comment card to the board president or recording secretary prior to the point in the meeting at which the agenda item is called. All speakers who would like to comment regarding a matter not on the meeting agenda must submit a public comment card to the board president or recording secretary prior to the point in the meeting for open forum on non-agenda items. Public comment cards are available at the information table at the rear of the boardroom, from the recording secretary, or online. We ask that all speakers come to the podium to address the board. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Pledge of Allegiance, Ms. Harvey.
Yes, please stand and put your right hand over your heart. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
Approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Agenda approved. Open forum on non-agenda items, and we have 3 speakers today. So I will begin with Rochelle Hightower.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Black History Month. I'm back before you this evening after having spoke last month at the board. And I wanted to bring it to public attention that last month when I spoke to the board, my sound was intentionally pulled. If you listen at the original recording of the board, it's asked, where is the output? It's the GC11s. I'm the only speaker who the video didn't show up for, right? I'm the only one who most of my speech, the sound was pulled. And then the video is now edited and reloaded back up 10 days with that portion of what people's conversation and their recognizable voices cut out of the video and the video edited. I sent an email to all of the board members following a whistleblower complaint addressed to you, Ms. Gaines. As the president of the board, you're assigned to hear whistleblower complaints when they're filed when the president is named. Apparently, you sent that same whistleblower complaint to Vice President Victoria Simmons for her to investigate a complaint in which she is named. How is that appropriate? In the previous statement that I made to the board, I spoke and talked about how my current dean insinuated that I and my team were slaves. I filed that complaint, told her supervisor about it. Since that day, no one has called to ask about the formal complaint, except the person named in the complaint, the VP of Human Resources. Not one of you board members have responded to the email that you are all CC'd on. In the middle of Black History Month, how is it appropriate when our biggest equity gap is Black students that the Black equity director is ignored? If you're going to ignore your own staff members, how will you close equity gaps for Black students? I have spent 7 years on this campus and have tolerated things like being called colored, tolerated things that are inexcusable, to only be silenced and tried to be blocked from this campus when I'm on a personal medical leave. Told, you can't come to campus. Why? I'm not an administrative leave, which I asked to be placed on, and no one responded to that either. I went out on personal leave, but you said I can't come to campus. You can't talk to students. Students in this whole community know me. It's inappropriate and you should do better.
Thank you. Next, Kathy Osborne.
Good evening. I am a full-time instructor with Business and Computer Studies. And as you all know, we have many equity gaps on this campus, and we strive to identify them and to eradicate that issue on this campus. It's a long haul and a lot of work still yet to be done. So recently, one came to my attention that I wanted all of you to know about, because if you don't work with something, sometimes you don't realize that there can be an equity gap there. And that equity gap is in athletics. You see, our athletic teams are given $15 per athlete to give them for away games, a pregame meal, a snack, a postgame meal, and water. Now, can any of you feed yourselves in this day and age for $15, 2 meals, a snack, and a drink? That's like lunch, right? $15. That's if you don't go someplace expensive. So we have a pretty big problem, right? Now I need you to picture, because I think it was Mr. Adams that played football. So picture our football players, full pads, 100 degrees, $15. They're going to go out there and they're going to play. And what happens in a school that's low income is sometimes you don't realize if for home games, the budget is nothing. We don't feed our athletes before they play. In a school with the type of equity gaps that we have, that means we're putting players out there with no food. Maybe they didn't eat it all that day. And if they did, perhaps it was a very low nutrition meal, because that's all they can afford. We also cannot give our players, our athletes, the money, because if you do, and they are extremely impoverished, they will not feed themselves and they will take that money home to their families, which I think we all understand. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. The $15, we cannot feed 2 meals, a snack, and a drink. And I asked one of our coaches once when it was extremely hot outside, because my kids are athletes. They played all through school. They didn't get that from me, by the way. And I know how much it costs. Sports are expensive. And so I said to one of our coaches once, well, what about the Gatorade? And he laughed in my face. I said, Kathy, we can't afford Gatorade. We can barely afford water. You think we have Gatorade? I'm like, I thought that was just normal. Right? I mean, when you have especially for football and you're outside and it's hot, soccer, no Gatorade, unless the coach donates it or some of the people donate it. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention, that perhaps it's time that we revisit some of these policies and we take a look, particularly right now when everything is very expensive. I mean, we ain't giving our players eggs, right? That's not going to happen. That would take a grant. So perhaps we could just revisit some of this and see if we can do better and close some of these equity gaps in programs where perhaps we don't realize that an equity gap of that nature exists. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Larry Williams to come up, please.
Good evening, everybody. I like to present a poem about emoji, to see if I get my message across about change your minds, on a few things and everything. Emoji. It not only means unity, but it's also a place on campus for the community, for you and me, whether if you're Black, brown, white, mixed, sped, deaf, young, or elderly, we're all one and the same, no matter what. Whenever I had problems, they would give their all to help me find a solution. Whenever I needed someone to talk to, they would lend me their ear, but also offer their words of wisdom. Whenever I was worrying about failing a course, they would lift me up with encouragement and motivate me to succeed by giving me the resources I needed to prepare for my future. Throughout these past semesters, they always had my back. Now it's time for me to have theirs. Personally, I met so many people over the years that treated me as if I were family to them. The village is like a second home for me, filled with unconditional love and care. So many events, from porch talks to Right It Right Wednesdays, Juneteenth barbecues, end of the year parties, trips to HBCU, just to name a few. I had many memorable memories I cherished over the years, and I refuse to let them all perish. If it were to go, I like to thank Miss Crystal, Miss Cynthia, Mr. Hicks, Miss Ty, Miss Hightower, and the whole Umoja staff for all the good times, education, and dedications we shared over the years. I'm here today at this board meeting to fight the power, not physically with my fists, but vocally with my voice, because if Dr. King fought for what he believed in back in the day, he want me to stand up for what I believe in today. In closing, if you're thinking of getting rid of the program, I think Umoja should stay around a lot longer and definitely get a new building space like every other club on campus, because truthfully speaking, without them, there wouldn't be no AVC, because you can't have a community without the unity. But also in the future, after I graduate from this college, I would like to come back to the village, a place I gladly call home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have we have one more speaker, Miss Elida Twyman.
Hello, I am Elida. Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. And also happy Black History Month. I first would like to start with an essay that I wrote for the last Umoja conference in Anaheim that I got to be a part of last semester. I want to start with Simone Center Townsend talked about being a radical revolutionary in your everyday spaces. Being a radical revolutionary comes with being your authentic self, challenging your adversaries as well as your allies. Board. And also taking risk and being strategic. I feel as though I were giving a sense of self-confidence that I didn't know that I needed. Although the college experience was what I was looking for, what I gained was so much more. And so last semester, I joined the program called Umoja. And we keep saying Umoja, Umoja. That means unity in Swahili. And during that semester, and it was at Anaheim's conference that I discovered a sense of identity that I didn't know that I did not yet have. And that I'm actually not a minority. And there's nothing minor about what Umoja does for me or for every other student that is a part of that program. Umoja, don't worry, this speech is not about Black versus white, this speech. It's about right versus wrong. And fun fact, the ancient African civilizations were so far advanced in architecture, literature, math, science, philosophy, that today is taught as someone else's history. That's wrong. Again, There's nothing minor about Umoja because we learned that there. And the sense of family it gives to students is unquestionable, as you hear and see today. There's nothing minor about the education and experiences we get to have that you cannot teach in a classroom. You need a certain environment, and Umoja is that environment. The conference and trips that we take, they're educational because we learn about ourselves and about others. It's fun because we make it so. We get to actually be ourselves and not just Black students.
Ms. Twyman, if you could wrap it up, your time has expired, but I'm sure the board will allow you to finish.
I got you. Thank you so much. Discontinuing or postponing our trips, that is beyond wrong. It's actually devastating. And I'm sitting here shaking as I'm speaking to you because of that it's so devastating. We're not being kept from just from the experience, but we're being kept from evolving not only as students, but as individuals that unfortunately live in a society that does not want our growth or evolution. It would rather keep us ignorant, a statistic, a minority. And I don't believe that that's this school's intention with it being predominantly Black students here. So please, prove me wrong, board.
Thank you. Okay, presentation, selection of third-party administrator. Do we have one more? Okay. Okay, sorry, thank you. All right, presentation, selection of third-party administrator for districts 403B and 457 retirement plan. Oh, she's going to speak to this item. I'm sorry. Okay, Ms. Pamela Ford, please. Okay. So this is not a public comment? It's a sorry.
Sorry, Matt.
Okay. Hi, my name's Matt. I'm here with Tim and Tina Woodford and Timothy Hayes. And we're here to discuss the topic of third-party administrator, otherwise called TPA. Recently, the board adopted a new contract with a new TPA. And it might seem like a benign thing, you know, back office management of the plans, but there is a great impact, and we hope this presentation shows you. So we'll just go through an outline here. I'm going to talk about what a TPA is, AVC's selection process, the impact it can have, and then possible solution. Here's some definitions. You guys all, I think everyone has a copy. You can review them. I'm going to use a graphic to kind of explain how all the pieces fit together, and what this is basically just the definitions. The purpose of a TPA is to ensure the 403B and 457 plan is in compliance with the IRS codes and also the day-to-day administrative services, managing all of the aspects, taking that liability off the school district, all that back office work, and they're supposed to do that. They weren't created necessarily to provide financial advice or recommend investments or providers, as that could pose a conflict of interest. Here's that graphic. You kind of see the storm clouds of the IRS and rules and regulations. A third-party administrator protects the district's plan. And inside that plan, there are various investment providers and vendors. So Fidelity, Voya, Vanguard, where that educators and staff can select. They monitor all the money coming in and going out to make sure everybody's playing by the rules. So when a third-party administrator offers its own investment, that's kind of like the fox watching the hen house. When an employee has a question about the plan, HR or payroll will direct them to go speak with the third-party administrator, which, as I'll show you, can pose a conflict of interest. Fees, at one of the board meetings, there was questions about fees. I just want to clarify that most, if not all, 403B and 457 third-party administrators offer a vendor-paid option. So the vendors pay the fees. Neither the district nor its employees pay any of the fees. So when we're comparing TPAs, we don't really need to consider the fee aspect. This is the AVC selection process. I know this came up also at a board meeting. It was asked of Harmony, if there were any notes or rubrics or anything like that. All we could get through a California Public Records Act request was this little box you see in the top right corner. There's no notes, no rubric, no scoring, nothing to really go off of. I'm not sure how they made an accurate decision based on that. There were 3 applicants, one of which was the incumbent that was going to be replaced. The other 2 were Schools First and Omni. Lancaster, between Omni and Schools First, chose Omni. And then some TPAs that were not considered were PennServe and National Benefits Services, and Westside opted to go with PennServe and not Schools First. The reason why we didn't get probably more applicants is because another part of the records request was that Human Resource didn't solicit for a request for proposal. So they didn't know, many TPAs didn't know to apply. I guess you had to get a phone call to be asked to apply. The impact. So this impacts the district, its employees, and the local community. The impact to the district is a potential liability. Up in the right-hand corner, you see an email from Jim Firth in March, speaking to Schools First. We have copies of this, so do you, saying that he'll push for option 2 because it makes the most sense to have our TPAs process all remittance, which suggests that they're not going to process all remittance, and that as enrollees age out, they could get down to just having the Schools First option with eventual complete protection, which also suggests that the district is not being protected right now. And as you can see, this is a copy of the vendor form from Schools First. Here's option 2. You see that all new accounts are to be opened with RBP. That stands for Retirement Builder Plan, offered through Schools First and nationwide. The district must sign the common remitter service agreements, and the district must sign authorizations for all old 457 providers. That means loans, withdrawals, hardships, and required minimum distributions. So if the district gets that wrong, they signed off on it, the IRS can maybe take a closer look at the plan and whether it's in compliance. This is a proposal also from the records request. US Omni, they were not selected, but in comparison, we see that Omni says they will manage all aspects of the plan, and they see an importance in remaining independent from investment product sales because this eliminates conflicts of interest that could hinder the administration, which is exactly what we're seeing, a hindrance of administration. It's kind of like when you don't do parts of the plan, it's like having that umbrella, you bought an umbrella with holes in it. How does it affect employees? So for 20 years, employees have had choice. They've had 16 choices. Vanguard's on their CalSTRS, Tia Kreft. And now as of just this year, after the adoption of the new contract, the choice has been limited down to 3. And of course, Schools First nationwide plan is one of those 3. I'm not sure, I don't believe I'm not sure why there's the other 2, probably because they don't necessarily have anyone that would come to the school district to offer those programs. They might be straw men just to kind of show face. They say Schools First on their grandfather themselves say, we are not able to act as a third-party administrator for additional 457 vendors. In contrast, Omni is a strong advocate of multi-vendor platforms, encouraging the addition of as many as possible. So my question is, why hire an administrator that says they cannot administrate the plan you have and turn it completely upside down? Here's an email back in dated March 17th. Jim First might have seen that the employees were going to lose their choice and maybe was coming to see if there's a way to allow for future enrollments in different, in the existing plans. Schools First response was, it opens the opportunity for employee confusion, which I think is a little insulting to suggest that AVC hires professors and PhDs and staff members that are walking around confused. Here's a Wall Street Journal article, their words, not ours. Middlemen like Schools First routinely help teachers. That is where the possible conflicts arise. Nationwide makes additional payments to Schools First when teachers invest in higher cost programs. So educators come in, they ask, well, I'd like to open a plan. They're sent to Schools First and they get a high cost program because seems to be a kickback there. The low cost investment providers such as Vanguard and Fidelity don't have any kind of fee agreements or kickbacks to the administrators. Also, having a TPA that sells product is basically like could be considered free marketing or district endorsement. Here's an email from Jim First that just came out this year, telling the employees that all enrollments have to go through Schools First, so get in touch with them. But that's not necessarily true because I am able to enroll an employee in the plan, so that's not exactly true. They say here that we are coming to you. That's mostly likely because they're not from here, they're from Santa Ana. And they say that they want to offer the best customer service and they provide you an 800 number. But what I'm saying here is that the district basically funnels employees into Schools First. And we'll see how that affects our local economy. So local businesses are impacted because all of the employees are going to Schools First, when they have a question about the plan. And that gives an opportunity to possibly cross-sell home loans. So that's local lenders being affected, investments, those are advisors being affected here, local insurance agents, and then local credit unions for checking and savings. We have Edwards, which has been local for years and years. These are some letters, and I think you may have received them in the past. And if you'd like copies, I'm sure we could find out how to get some. But these are just quotes from a few letters. All CEO of Edwards, certified public accountants, other insurance agents, all asking for this to be revisited and the selection be reconsidered. Hurting local businesses weakens the economy, property tax revenues, and potential bond measures. In 2016, a bond measure was passed for $350 million. If we hurt our local economy, we may not be able to pass future bond measures. Solution, if you agree with anything I said, that employees deserve freedom of choice, that the selection process was not thorough at all. The district should not have to assume liability or workload to administrate the 457 plan when other TPAs could have just done it. And that large companies from Orange County should not be given an unfair advantage over our local businesses that support AVC through tax revenues and bond measures. Then we suggest and request that AVC conduct a thorough selection process, actually solicit an RFP, choose an administrator that can fully administrate the plans and not sell product. And Tim, I think, wanted to say something.
Actually, Mr. Sessa and Mr. Hayes, your time is
If
up.
I could take 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, and point something out, would that be okay? It has to do with this presentation. Yes? I'm sorry? 1 minute, let me run through it. Okay. We're suggesting a third-party administrator doesn't sell product. It has nothing to do with Schools First. Any third-party administrator that sells product it hurts the economy here. By the way, you can cancel any contract within 30 days. And also you just take a second look at this. This is from 2016, and this is from Steve Buffalo, and a board member for a long time. With a bond, there is an opportunity for a large share. We are talking about millions of dollars of state money. In addition to bond money, the community would put up. What Steve is saying is that the community should support the bond issue, which they did, and you can see what's happening around you. Let's see, Mike Adams, another longtime board member, says we want a state-of-the-art facility, and that's from the locals paying for the bill for that $350 million. We're just saying stay local, stay local.
Time.
Time? Okay. Well, thank you for the time. We're saying just take another look at this and we can provide excellent information. We have no fight in this, but we've presented this to other school boards, and other school boards have rejected the third-party administrator sells product that interferes with their tax base. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
You're welcome to ask questions of them separate from the board. Does the board have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Council. About this turnaround, Mr. Haynes, you mentioned the turnaround as a transaction. Has it improved under Schools First compared to the other one?
That's probably more a question for Tina, but I would say that if we're going to compare the one that did apply, Omni, I haven't seen anything faster than that. So the same day turnaround. Schools First has taken a week at times to get something to us. I'm sure, the call, when you've called in, it's been shorter. That's likely because they're able to route 661 area code numbers to be first in line. But I would say they got better. But as far as processing timelines, are they faster or slower, would you say?
I'd say Omni is much faster on
Things. Yeah.
transaction
Yeah.
confirmation. Overall, throughout the year, find that things happen quickly at the beginning.
Interpreter cannot hear you.
At the beginning of the calendar year, you'll see transactions with most companies happen pretty quickly. As time goes on after tax season and towards the end of the year, they take longer. We've noticed that US Omni, as being one of the companies we work with frequently with many school districts, they have been consistent on their frequent turnaround.
And I would say it's quite frequent that when we request an approval for an employee to transact on the plan, we get a fax and it's half a fax. And usually we have to call and ask, why didn't we get the full fax? This kind of thing.
We're not advocates for Omni at all. There's lots of third-party administrators
National
that do
benefit.
not self-finance.
National benefits services.
Well, I
and
mean, we're
Penn
not
Service.
advocates for Omni. We're just saying they were asked to provide a proposal by Jim First. And by the way, there's probably about 100 financial planners in the Antelope Valley. So Trustee Michael Rivas, does that answer your
Well,
question?
yeah, that's better. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I just wanted to know, was there a TPA candidate that would not remove freedom of choice and enforce grandfathering in?
The answer is yes. There's several of them. Most of your third-party administrators do not sell financial products at all. And that would, on the request for proposal, Omni does not sell financial products, however, provide all the other services of education that you need. There are more third-party administrators who do not sell products than any other kind. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I just wanted to know if an employee were to request a hardship distribution from their grandfathered 457 plan, would the district then have access to be aware of their financial situation?
Well, as it goes with districts that do have this option 2 in place, we are asked to send the forms in to request a hardship to the, I guess, the district office, and someone in the district office reviews it and does sign it. So they do see if you're having a hard, if you have to show that you're foreclosing on a house or something like that, yes, I would say that the district is probably aware that you have a foreclosure and need a hardship loan or withdrawal.
Thank you, Mr. Sessa and Mr. Hayes. The time for your presentation has gone, and we've allowed questions. If there are any additional questions, you can remain in the audience and people can approach you there.
Okay, our second presentation this evening is Read to Succeed, an update. Your presenters, please come up.
Good evening, Dr. Zealot, Board President Gaines, trustees and guests. My name is Dr. Morenike Adebayoye. I'm a full-time English faculty here at AVC. And I'm here tonight to share with you some of the things we do on campus, the Read to Succeed initiative that some of my colleagues and myself have been leading and facilitating for the past 6 years. RTS, like we commonly call it, is known as Read to Succeed. So what is it about? It's a community of faculty, staff, students, and administrators that gather to read together and share and find commonalities of the themes in the book and how it impacts them. A lot of quotes have impacted my life over the years, and these are some of them. Thomas Bailey Aldrich says, "A man is known by the company his mind keeps." I think it's something for us to think about. Joseph Addison says, "Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body." Today, we are all crazy about wellness of the body, but we forget also that mental wellness is very crucial. Reading helps us accomplish that. As we gather to read and share, these are some of the benefits of Read to Succeed that we impact on our students. Vocabulary building. Of course, we know without vocabulary, we can't really go far as students. We gather to read and share, to network and connect. Connect students to students, students to faculty, faculty to admin. There's nothing beats connection. I have a teaching philosophy that says, you cannot teach me unless you know me. It's been my personal philosophy. And so that helps me to connect with my students so they can approach me and know that I care about them. Read to Succeed does that as we read and share, because they see themselves in most of those books. We gather for only an hour, just letting down, just relaxing for an hour to talk about a story or things in the book and connect it with current events or our communities. Stress and anxiety gets reduced. And then we sharpen our minds and memory. I'm not an expert in this, but research shows that the more we read, the more we grow dendrites, the branches of our brains, the more we're able to recall and retain information. And of course, our memory grows. Of course, increased knowledge. These are part of the things that we do in Read to Succeed. In the 6 years of starting, we've read 6 books. Time will not permit me to tell you how each of these books has impacted our students, how the themes, how the messages have touched their lives, how they have found themselves in it, how they have been able to know that, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. So I'm only going to focus on the one we're currently reading. High School Dropout to Harvard, just the title alone tells the whole stories. The other, Westmore, oh my goodness. We actually had prisoners read this book with us. It was powerful. The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, I know that's kind of funny, but I tell you, it's amazing. On the Come Up, Angie Thomas is an amazing writer. We all got connected. Lives in Limbo, a lot of our students are undocumented immigrants and they hide, they cannot tell the story. But when we read this book and had the author come, oh my goodness, they told their stories. They were proud of their stories. Each of us has our unique stories and it's special to us. Read to Succeed makes this happen. Every time we gather, we try to collect data. And part of the things we survey are this. And all of these things we survey have always had higher impact, higher responses. Read to Succeed was meaningful to me in connection, in communication, and so on and so forth. Read to Succeed improved my interest in reading. That's actually the essence of it. We want them to reading. Reading is a fun thing to do. RTS helped me find reading intellectually stimulating. Read to Succeed support my success in other subjects area. These are the things we've measured over the years. And I have them as appendices on this PowerPoint, should you want to go through them later on. This particular book that we're reading, I'll back up a little bit. The 2% Way by Dr. Myron Rolle. That's what we're reading for this academic year. Here is Amazon's description of this book. Irrespective of your struggles, obstacles, or adversities before you, whether you're looking to improve yourself, searching for your purpose and identity, or seeking inspiration, Dr. Rolle's story will give you the encouragement and tools you need to make incremental improvements that lead to long-lasting results. Build a life full of purpose and meaning. Tackle life with the assurance that you're moving in the right direction. That's who our students are. That's what our community is. That's what AVC College is all about. Helping our students succeed, making sure nothing holds them back. And so this book overall changed the way we think about our self-improvement. We know it's a process. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so this book teaches us and proves to us that we have the power to make strides toward the life that we dream of. Nobody, no student in AVC should ever imagine that they're not able to. They can do all things. This book teaches that. And so the purpose of me coming tonight is not only to share with you what this initiative is about, but to tell you that the author will be on campus in April. Thank you. We are excited. Dr. Rowe was a professional football player. I'm sure you enjoyed, what was it we had yesterday? Thank you. Whether your team won or not, don't ask me because, yeah, I won't go there. He was a professional football player. He was a Rhodes Scholar and now a neurosurgeon. We can beat that, having him on our campus. I think this is my 7th year here on campus, but I think it will be the first time ever we'll have a Rhodes Scholar in AVC campus. I'm inviting you. Be our guest. Because this man is going to be an inspiration to our students. Our athletic students will see themselves up there. Our STEM students will see themselves up there. Every member of AVC, be it faculty, be it staff, admin, or students, and the Antelope Valley community, we will see success that we are capable by the improvement we make every day, the 2% way. He will come to tell his story. Please come. I'm inviting you. And just so you know how great this book is, I brought each of you copies of this book. Patty has them. Please read, just get started. At least bring the book with you and have it autographed. And I read an article many, many years ago that has impacted my life and career as an educator. It says, we are what we read. Read to Succeed tries to make sure our students find themselves in what they read and every day grow. Thank you.
Okay, Equity and Achievement, Dean Dwyer and Hernandez.
Good afternoon. Good evening. My name is Riley Dwyer. I'm the Dean of Student Equity, Language and Communication Arts.
Michelle Hernandez, I'm the Associate Dean of Student Life.
Dr. Zellett, were you going to present some data prior?
I will present that before I'll present the equity plan before that item.
Great, thank you. So Michelle and I are here to present some information regarding student equity. I want to make sure that you guys understand that the programs that we're going to talk about fall beyond the scope of the Student Equity Office. As we see tonight, Read for Succeed is an equity-based idea that Dr. Adebayo Ige presented. I can still see her sitting across the table from me, talking to me about, she had this idea about kids reading books and can we do this thing? I said, absolutely. And this is exactly the kind of project and equity-based idea that is growth mindset that we'll start to talk about tonight. So another program that we don't have on our PowerPoint is Basic Needs. The Basic Needs Committee gives the food that our professor was discussing in regard to being an equity gap for athletics. So Basic Needs is a program that students can get food if they need it, and they can sign up in just a couple of days, and they're in. Another program that we don't talk about here is the Learning Center. The Learning Center provides all kinds of support for students. So it's embedded tutoring, peer tutoring, supplemental instruction, and faculty-led workshops. So, go ahead. Another, if you can go ahead and move forward on that, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. So our educational supplies that we grant, and I say we, again, these aren't just based in the student equity office, they're across campus. So equity is everybody on campus providing support for our students. That's what we do. So in terms of supplies, our Laptops to Learn program, which was again started by a staff member. She had an idea. She was part of a cohort program for classified staff. And we made it happen with the Student Equity Office and with our classified staff member, who became, by the way, the classified staff member for the state for a year, Angela Mussel. So hotspots, calculators, you name it. One of the big initiatives, which I believe also started out of English, was Books Help, where students can get the books that they need. All faculty have to do is request those books be purchased, and they become loaners for the students for the semester.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about is professional development that happens on campus, because we know that dealing with our equity gaps also takes it's going to take a village. It takes our professionals on our campus in order to do that. So there's several initiatives that we have. Culturally competent pedagogy, so having our faculty involved in that and being able to articulate that within their classrooms, within their CORs, and having the courses such as Puente, which we talk from a Latinx perspective, Umoja, we have Umoja faculty where they're talking from an African-American perspective. So having that relevant cultural competency is really important. And also meeting all learners where they are. So many of you will be familiar with Avid for Higher Education. You may also be very familiar with it as it relates to the K-12 system, but that's really meeting all learners where they are. So having multiple modalities within the classroom so that they can learn in the way that they learn best. So whatever, if that's talk and pair share, if that is, talking it out or drawing it out. So that really does give us, our students, an opportunity to learn in different ways. The other thing is looking at, we have our caring campus to make sure that everybody feels cared for and nurtured. That's one of the 6 success factors that our RP group has told us about. And so having that initiative just extends our ability to show our students that we care for them. We care about the classes that they're taking, the experience that they're having, and their outcomes for their lives.
And Caring Campus is another example of an initiative coming from another part of the campus. So institutional research is deeply involved in that, and student equity is funding some of their needs to implement that process. Amend is a fabulous program designed to support African-American males in terms of mentorship, advocacy, empowerment. Jamal Brown, CalWorks, yes? CalWorks and Golden Hicks, a program specialist in equity, are the folks who are kind of leading that, in addition to, English faculty member VJ Jennings.
Amanda also provides for scholarships, conferences, even a Women's Leadership Institute. So while we are definitely lifting up our men in that, the women are involved as well. We've supported Amend in various ways, and our equity department actually has really supported their conferences, et cetera. They're going in 2 weeks. Awesome. Next is our Dreamer Center. And so this is our center for our undocumented students who are actually very vulnerable. And so part of our program there is to make sure that they have a safe place to go, that they have the support that they need, that they are able to work with the students who have shared experiences, and that they have resources that they need. So we provide them with legal assistance, DACA workshops, and then also looking at their educational pathways, having embedded counselors in the center to assist them on their educational pathway.
Focus 180, I believe was named by my colleague here. So Focus 180 is for formerly incarcerated students. They are folks who have the opportunity to use a number of our services. So this is a case in which we have a deep intersectionality for our students. We provide housing assistance, help getting driver's license, DMV services, you name it, especially mental health services through the community and through the campus.
First year experience is a Hispanic Serving Institution Title V grant. And being that we are more than 52% Latinx students, we qualify for this grant. And so what it does, we're actually at like 62% of Latinx students. But what this grant has allowed us to do, both create a first-year experience program and a second-year experience program, providing peer mentor, program specialists who monitor the success of the students, helping them navigate this thing that we call college, all the acronyms that we have, the vocabulary that we use that can often be foreign to them. And then also we encourage 15 to finish, or think 30, so that they can graduate on time. And then our transfer for our Latinx women was one of our previous equity gaps. And so looking at how do we get them to transfer ready, and also how do we get them career ready, is our focus of our second year experience grant. And we do this through case management, life skill development, and really working with them from their senior year of high school forward to the completion. Next is Guardian Scholars. Guardian Scholars is our foster youth initiative, and we are going to expand that with our next up initiative that we have with the Chancellor's Office. It will give us even more kind of buying power to assist with our students who have been either a product of the foster youth or recently exited out of our foster youth system. And so again, providing basic needs that they may have, and then additional support of lived experiences that foster for current or former foster youth may have. And that also includes job placement assistance and really providing them a support network that they might not otherwise have.
Guardian Scholars is, again, another initiative that is will be coming out of UPS. No, probably not. EOPS. So LGBTQIA is currently not within student equity, but instead within student life. And a committee was just established, I believe it was 2 years ago. So the work here is relatively new. We are moving into we're moving into a space into the old Learning Center building, whatever that will be called, the hub or what have you. And most of these programs will be within the old Learning Center. So LGBTQIA, so professional development, allied training, gender neutral bathrooms, preferred name. We're working on this. This is kind of an incipient initiative, but we're moving very quickly.
You've heard about Puente at one of our previous board meetings, so I'll be brief with that. It is a cohort-driven program where we have students who are in the English 101 and then the HD 101 course in the fall. And then they follow it up with successive courses after that in the spring. So they're actually with each other for the entire year. And the classes are taught in a culturally relevant pedagogy. And so they also get to go to different conferences and professional development opportunities, cultural events. And then their faculty receive training every summer. So that's our Puente program. And we are looking at looking forward to having Puente in the old learning center. We're not supposed to call it that, the hub. We're looking forward to having them there because then they'll actually have a full spectrum of a space for them to hang out.
I know that our time is up, but if I could just do a couple more. Emoja is one of our very active programs that will also be a corner of the hub, not the old learning center. The room dedicated to Umoja will be in the corner. It's the largest of the two kind of set aside spaces. Did you want to go into veterans? Should we? Yeah.
Last but not least, the program that we're going to talk about is our veterans program. Our veterans program seeks to support all of our military connected students. And so that could be anyone who has served. It could be someone who is a spouse or a family member, a dependent of our military family. And so we provide student support services, embedded counseling, as well as their veterans educational benefits. So we certify them so that they can get their benefits through the VA. And now, before we exit, we have students who wanted to tell you just what the programs that they've participated in have meant to them and the impact that it has on their success.
My name is Jonathan Perez. I pretty much go to the VRC every day that I attend school. I get my papers printed there. Most of my resources come from there as far as materials, notebooks, pens, papers. And honestly, they're the ones that guided me through my veterans rehab, employment, Chapter 31 benefits. Yeah, I got kicked back last year. Ashley was able to help me, push me through, and I'm here now.
Good evening. My name is George Sheelis. I'm currently participating in AVC's work study program through the Department of Veteran Affairs, as well as currently pursuing my associate's degree in business administration at AVC. I'll never forget my time spent at the Veteran Resource Center. As a dependent from a military family, I naturally acquired a strong desire to visit the local center last spring and instantly felt passionate about their mission. I became a student worker with the VA under the supervision of Ms. Chavez, the backbone of our center. As a team, we seek out to fulfill the VRC's mission to provide assistance and educational guidance to military personnel, as well as ensuring student certifications are accurately reported to the VA. Our team also effectively promotes their retention, graduation, and prepares them for possible transferable opportunities so they're equipped with the right set of tools in order for their educational success. The VRC is far more than a place for students to grab a cup of coffee. Really, our primary goal as a team effort is to make the center a second home, a place where military students can come and rely on us for a variety of needs, information, supplies, whatever that may be. Students are encouraged to collaborate and form study groups, and most of all, where we can provide a safe and secure space for our students. In the past, we have hosted many events like MREs where they can meet, relax, and eat, and we're very privileged to do so and give back to our veterans. Although this will be my last semester before I transfer to CSUB in the fall, I hope to implement what I have learned at the Veterans Center in my future career what I've learned inside the center to many great lengths to further assist the brave men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Thank you.
Hello, how you doing, board? My name is Mike Stratton. I want to speak on Ty from Umoja, and also the Veterans Center with Ashley Torres and Ashley Chavez and Jamal. It's a lot of people on this campus that help so many people. It's a lot of passion here. And we all come before you because we all want to participate in something that is greater than ourselves. I've walked in many parts of life. I've gone to different community colleges, things like that. And there's so much passion here at AVC. I see it, and I see different organizations fighting for what they believe in. And I know you as a board sit upon these situations and fight for what you believe in. You want things to go in the right places, the right departments, right opportunity for everybody. That's a hell of a position to be in. But again, the Veteran Center, Amoja, and Jamal, they're very strong individuals, and they do a lot that is unparalleled in this community college. And I appreciate it because they inspire me, and you guys inspire me. I'm glad I came here. It's the first time I've come to a forum like this in the college. And you have new buildings that you built. And I know you want to put a lot of different classes and systems in those buildings. You didn't build them for nothing. So everyone here needs you, and you need them, and you work together. And I've heard something called unity. And I believe in that. And again, I'm inspired, and I thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Citlali. I'm a first year student at AVC, and I am a part of the Puente cohort 2. Puente has been a family to me. The coordinators have worked together to make the classroom environment a place where we can cultivate our Latinx identity, as well as help us with the fundamentals so that we can face our non-Puente classes. I'm also a part of FYE. Their program has allowed me to stay connected to my AVC community, one that I was not connected to. And they have granted me a safe space with my program specialist as well as my peer mentor. And they have helped me with anything, any of my personal doubts that I have career-wise, as well as my classes, pointing me to the right tutors. Lastly, I am a part of the Dreamer Center as a peer mentor, and I have loved the environment that they have created for undocumented students. They have created a safe place, guiding them with any fears and doubts that they may have when they are applying to classes and working with financial aid so that they can get the education that they deserve. Being a part of Puente, FYE, and Dreamers has strengthened me on every level. And I know with these programs as my foundation, I will be successful after ABC. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rosalind Amaya, and I was a part of FYE my first year, and I first heard about it in high school, which also led me to find Puente for their first cohort. And Puente has given me opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten without the help of Michelle here, because she really advocated for these programs on our campus. And I've been able to go outside of the campus and visit other schools that are Hispanic serving institutes with Puente. And just last year with Michelle, I was able to go to Haku, which is with all our Latino students around the country, to learn more about how to make connections outside and to further our education and get a start on our future careers and whatnot. And I find it very beneficial to have these programs. And I have a brother coming in next year who's going to be doing the same thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 11.4, 21-22 district measure AV and OPEB audit reports.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ben Levitt. Very pleased to be here with you tonight to speak to the results of the fiscal 22 audits. Sometimes audits can be really exciting. Very happy to speak to these because they are definitely not. I'll be covering the results at a fairly high level. Don't hesitate to stop me at any point if there's any questions along the way. And then I'll have time at the end for questions as well. On the next slide, we talk about the basis for the audits. Actually, we've got our table of contents. So we roll through kind of a little summary of what we're going to look at. And on this slide, we talk about where the audits are coming from. So on the very next slide, we've got how they're enshrined in education code, as well as in the district's APs and BPs. Effectively, the audits are required because the district is a major recipient of state and federal funds. And there's a lot of strings that come attached to those. So annual external audits are required, both on the district entity as well as the Measure AV bonds and the OPEB trust. And so I'll be speaking to the results for all those scopes of work. On the next slide, we kind of lay out all those scopes. So we've got the district audit, Measure AV bond, and the public entity investment trust. I just want to emphasize to the board how broad the procedures are that cover these scopes. We work with a variety of departments across the district. We take a tremendous amount of your staff's time, and I want to extend our appreciation for that time. We particularly will be bugging fiscal. Shami, Wendy, and Sarah are people that we work with all the time, but working with admissions and records, working with student financial aid, tremendous amount of areas where we're requesting a large number of documents. In fiscal 22, the year in the rearview mirror that I'm speaking to tonight, this was a non-extension year. The Chancellor's Office didn't allow any additional time as they did for the past two due to COVID. Nonetheless, district staff were able to get us everything that we needed in a timely fashion to enable us to opine on the financials and be able to bring those results to you tonight. So very pleased that we're in this place tonight. Just speaking at a high level to the reports contained within these documents, in the district audit report alone, there's 4 auditors' reports. At the very beginning of that report, the independent auditors' report is where we speak to our testing on the presentation of the overall financial statements. This is our chief work product, where we provide an opinion based on our testing on the presentation of the financial statements, essentially answering the question, can these financials be relied upon? Very pleased to let the board know for fiscal 22, we are able to provide or render an unmodified opinion, which is the highest quality opinion an auditor can provide, and is to say, based on our testing, the district audit report and the presentation of the district's financials can absolutely be relied upon by this governing board, the district, and all the district stakeholders. The next 3 auditors' reports start with our Yellow Book opinion, which concerns our testing on internal controls and controls over compliance. This is a section where we primarily focus at the earlier part of the year with a tremendous number of selections across wide-ranging areas such as disbursements, receipts, payroll transactions, and the like. And this is where, had we noted an exception in one of those areas, we would note that exception in that report, in the Yellow Book report. Very pleased to note for fiscal 22, we note no such exceptions to the district's control environment. So an entirely clean Yellow Book opinion for fiscal 22. And the final 2 reports in the district report concern our testing on federal and state funds. Federal was particularly hot button this past year, fiscal 22, because not only were we looking at the student financial aid cluster very closely, also the tremendous amount of HERF dollars coming in. Our firm works with about 1/3 of the system of community college districts throughout the state. A number of our clients have had challenges with the HERF program. There's a tremendous amount of rules and stipulations to follow. One audit that we started doing in fiscal 22 that we took over from a prior firm had an $8.4 million finding that they're still working with the Department of Ed on from fiscal 21. And that is not a situation any district wants to be in. So kudos to district management for taking federal compliance very seriously here at the college. We note no exceptions to federal compliance for fiscal 22. And finally, the last of the 4 auditors' reports, actually, we can go back one slide. Sorry, there's so much to cover on this slide. Oh, I do. Oh, this is great. All right. So I'll click through the slides going forward. The final report in the district audit is state compliance. State compliance is based around all those procedures spelled out in the annual updates to the Chancellor's Office's audit manual, the CDAM, or the Contracted District Audit Manual. And there are a number of procedures that are very specific with suggested audit procedures associated with each one. Had any exception been noted to state compliance, we would be required to make that notation in the state compliance report and ultimately detail that in the back of the report in the findings and question cost section. We note no exceptions to the long list of state compliance requirements outlined by the Chancellor's Office put in front of the system for fiscal 22. So an entirely clean report regarding the district. The bond report, Measure AV, just to speak to that for a moment, that consists of two entirely separate reports. On one, the financial statements, and then on the other, the performance audit. The financial statements contained two auditors' reports in of itself, an independent auditor's report where we opine on the fairness of the Measure AV broken out financials. And I'm pleased to report that is an unmodified opinion that we were able to render based upon our testing over Measure AV. The second report in the Measure AV financial statements is the Yellow Book opinion for Measure AV, just looking at the control environment over the bond funds. And similar to controls noted for the district, based on some really extensive testing over Measure AV disbursements and other controls, we note no exceptions to the Measure AV control environment. And so an entirely clean Measure AV financial statement. The Measure AV performance audit is kind of unique in auditing. It asks for us to answer really just one question, which is, were any funds spent outside of the provision of the ballot language? And the interesting thing about that question is there's no materiality attached to it. It's been accepted in our industry that unlike so many areas that we look at in test, if even a minor exception is noted to performance, essentially an exception to something unallowable to the ballot language of Measure AV, that's seen as a direct matter of voter and taxpayer trust and something that would require disclosure in the performance audit. And so that is an extremely sensitive test. We conduct a very large raw sample for our performance testing. For instance, in the current year, we sampled north of 26% of the raw fiscal 22 Measure AV disbursements. And from that sample, had any item, no matter how minor, come to our attention as an exception, we would note that in that document. We note no such exceptions for fiscal 22. That is not something I was able to say at a presentation last week, and much prefer it like that. So an entirely clean audit over both the financial and the performance components of Measure AV. And finally, to speak to the Public Entity Investment Trust, that also contains an independent auditor's report where we speak to the fairness of presentation of the OPEB trust financials. We note no exceptions, no disagreements with management, no uncorrected misstatements in those financials. And as a result, as with the other reports, we're able to render an unmodified opinion over the trust financials. And so moving on past this slide, just going into a little bit more, not too much, but a little bit more depth into the financial statements. As we discussed, the reports all begin with our independent auditor's report speaking to the overall presentation of the financials. Following that, management's discussion and analysis is where district management provides year-over-year comparative or analytical information on the balances contained in the current core against the prior year's financials. Following that section, in the core or the basic financial statements are the actual core financials. This would be essentially the district's balance sheet or statement of net position, income statement, or in governmental terms, a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in net position, as well as statement of cash flows and statements relating to the district's fiduciary funds. And then following that, the remaining financial information concerns the notes to the financials, which provide additional detail on the balances contained within the core, and the required supplementary and supplementary sections, which provide additional state and federal required schedules. And then following that, we get to the other independent auditors' reports, such as the Yellow Book opinion and state and federal compliance testing. And finally, the summary of auditors' results, which is where, had there been exceptions noted, those exceptions would be detailed in that last section. And that's why oftentimes Board members such as yourselves will flip right to the very back of the report just to see kind of what that current year holds in store. And happily for fiscal 22, no exceptions are noted. On that summary of auditors' results, there's a single page that presents at a glance all the results of the audit for the current year. And we can see there in that kind of smallish font, the financial statement results at the top, federal award testing, and the major programs that were tested during the current year, noted CFDAs along the left side and the program names on the right side. And then finally, state awards at the very bottom. And we note off to the right in those bullets, just to reiterate, unmodified opinions and no findings or question costs noted for fiscal 22. Now, one thing we always like to do is provide the board with an update on any comments noted in the prior year. And there was a comment noted in the prior year, noted as finding 2021-001 over state compliance. And that was a finding that came out of our broad testing on what's called Procedure 424 in the CDAM, where we look at apportionment and all of the main census types that apportionment comes from. And it was noted in the prior year, there was one particular census type, positive attendance or actual hours of attendance, which has some heavy documentary requirements, challenging area for districts to maintain compliance with, where there were variances between essentially the records that instructors were maintaining on class participation and the amounts of student FTES that were being claimed. And so we noted that as a finding in the prior year. Very pleased to let the board know, based on some detailed testing around this comment in the current year for fiscal 22, we note this as a corrected item, enabling us to show this is implemented from the prior year. Always like to provide that status from the past year. And one thing that's coming up on the horizon, not to belabor it, but a new GASB similar to the implementation that the district administered successfully in fiscal 22, GASB 87 was implemented this past year. GASB 96 is on the horizon. We'll be working with district management to implement that. Very similar to 87 in how 87 essentially took those operating leases, which had previously always been expensed and not capitalized as an asset on the district's books. 96 is going to do that with software subscriptions. So looking at a long-term software subscription or a contract similar to an operating lease and bringing that on as a right-to-use asset, an intangible right-to-use asset, rather than simply expensing it and not recognizing the value of that asset. So that's something we'll be working with the district on. Based on the successful implementation of GASB 87, we have no concerns over the district's ability to successfully and timely implement GASB 96. And with that, I know I covered that at a very high level. I want to open for any questions any member of the board may have on any of those audit results, any of those audit booklets, or any of our procedures as performed for fiscal 22. Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned raw data. Now, are you coming to these conclusions by estimating, well, we're going to take 20% of this and that will reflect the total? Is that how you do it?
In terms of sampling size methodology? When we're doing.
Well, let's say the bond measure.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to look and see the bond measure, how much, you're going to use the percentage and say, well, based on this percentage, it's correct.
Essentially. So we'll start in determining our sample of disbursements that we want to select. We'll start with the full population of everything. We want to always have the ability to select any possible transaction during the year. Mm-hmm. The baseline of our sample would be from practitioner guidance. So we'll look to a standard sample size guidance and we'll see what that lower threshold would be. On the bond side, on the bond testing, we'll typically blow right past that. So for instance, for a sample that would generate a confidence level of say 90 or 95%, which is kind of the stipulated standard, that would typically on the bond side be between 1/4 and 1/2 of the sample we wind up taking just to get even broader coverage, especially from the standpoint of really looking at performance and testing to the ballot language. But let me make sure I answered your question.
So, but you don't check every receipt, every paper.
That is correct, sir.
Is that standard procedure to do it on a percentage?
That is correct. So in the case of a forensic audit, There can be exceptional circumstances where, say there was a particular allegation of fraud or misappropriation for a part of a fraud audit. There could be 100% sample, a complete sample, but on any routine audit, those are always going to be conducted on a sample basis.
Okay, now I looked at the bond thing that you had, and you show that we owe something like $473 million on the bonds. Now, how did we come up with that? I mean, did you take a sample or actual total that we owe, or what? How did we come to the conclusion we owe that much?
Is that the total of the debt that's presented in the notes to the bond financials? That's a really good question. And I think that sometimes that information can be a little confusing because it's not actually debt of the measure. So the bonded debt that's issued against the authorization for Measure AV is ultimately not borne by either the district or the bond fund. That's debt that's entirely on the district's taxpayer base. The district presents that in the Measure AV report to really show just that information relating to that debt issued against the authorization. But to your question, that is not debt of the program, and the program will never need to repay that. The program gets to use those issued funds toward capital projects, but then ultimately the taxpayers of the district are the ones through taxes taken by the county tax rolls, ultimately paying that debt to the investors holding those bonds.
Well, with that kind of $473 million, and some of the bonds are due in 50 years.
Yes.
Well, and you pay an interest every year. How are you ever going to pay the principal off?
It's a good question. It's a tremendous amount of debt. Ultimately, that's something where the county treasurer is responsible for taking a look at that and determining the assessment per parcel in the district's tax base to be able to ensure that amount is correct. But you're absolutely right. It's a huge amount of calculation that need to be done. And from time to time, districts will look at refunding some of those issuances to take advantage of lower interest rates on those happy occasions when lower interest rates arise, to be able to do exactly kind of what you're inferring, to be able to save taxpayers money because it's a massive amount of interest on that debt. And it really speaks to the confidence of the district's taxpayers in the work the district's doing through Measure AV, because that's a self-imposed tax that your voters are putting on themselves to be able to enable you to achieve everything you're doing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Of course. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the clicker.
Report of closed session. At this time, I have two actions to report out of closed session. On a motion made by Michael Adams and seconded by Steve Buffalo with a 5-0 vote, the board approved the settlement of case number 20-ST-CV-18213. And the second action on a motion made by Michael Adams with the second by Steve Buffalo with a 5-0 vote, the board approved the Vice President of Student Services employment contract for Adenia Reyes for the term of March 15th, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Thank you and congratulations. Okay. Yes, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda passes. Okay, before we move on to action items, we have a speaker, David Adams, on 14.1, the academic calendar.
Good evening, President Zealot and Board of Trustees. I'm here today to talk about action item 14.1, which is the approval of the academic calendar for the 2023-2024 year. I don't understand why this is being approved as is, given the fact that there's been multiple PERB cases that the district has lost and chose to appeal. We talk about serving students. That's one of President Zealot's main messages. Unfortunately, neither the students or the faculty has been heard or has been continued to be heard on this. This calendar is basically just a rehash of the calendar that was rejected by PERB not once, but twice. And now you guys have decided to continue to litigate this at expense to the district and its taxpayers. Unfortunate. If we had a winter break and a winter session, students who may not pass classes in the fall would have another opportunity to take classes in the winter so they could then possibly transfer the following fall. Now, this puts those students' ability to transfer to a four-year university on hold for an extra academic year. I don't really think that should be the mission of the college. Again, we always talk about putting students first, and I really believe that going back to the original academic calendar, that quite frankly was taken away from both faculty and students without negotiations. And I know that because I was the lead negotiator at that time. I was there. It's just, and the continuance of going to this back to the same calendar, even though it's been rejected not once, but twice by PERB, is unfortunate and not really listening to the various constituencies of the school, including the students and the faculty. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion for 14.1, approval of 23-24 academic calendar?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President, I have a question for Mr. Adams. I'm sorry to bring you back up here, but I looked at the calendar and you had some portion of it for June and July of 2024 that was purple. Well, I couldn't figure out what that purple coloring signified.
Mr. Reeves, even though Mr. Adams came up to speak on an agendized item, it's not, I mean, should not be engaging with him regarding what he has personally. If you'd like to speak to him after the meeting or arrange some time to speak to him, that would be more appropriate.
So the calendar before you is the calendar that was recommended by the calendar committee with full representation from all constituent groups. So the calendar before you is the one that is the most recent recommendation, unchanged by administration, recommended to the board.
Any more discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.2, approval of the 22 to 25 student equity plan.
Second. If I could just give a brief introduction to the equity plan. Before you, you have the Word version of what was submitted into the NOVA system for the state. And what I want to highlight, it's really important for all of the board to be aware, the purpose of the student equity plan is to outline for the next few years how the college intends to address equity gaps and disproportionate impact gaps amongst its student populations. And so if I could point you to page 5, there's a box that says evidence of decreased disproportionate impact. If you look at those, that graph, there are numbers in red across several populations indicating that over the past few years, and this is a case with many colleges, COVID had a significant impact on this, but there are following groups who actually show a negative increase in the disproportionate impact gaps. And those populations include our Black and African American students, economically disadvantaged, first-generation students, foster youth, and our males. These categories are predetermined by the state. And interestingly enough, if you look at the the negative increase in the DI gaps, the general category economically disadvantaged, which covers most of our students, is the DI gap that has negatively increased the most. As was mentioned before, there's a lot of really good information in here. The focal points, if you look on page 8, the focal points of the plan are laid out, and there's a grid. And the metrics that we're asked to address are enrollment, completed transfer level math and English in the first year, retention, first primary term to second term, unit completion in fall and or academic year, transfer and completion. And so if you think about how those metrics lay out, it's the student journey from start to finish. And so what they're trying to encourage colleges to do is use this plan to remove barriers from the student journey all the way across. And our task in each of these categories is to address at least one, in some of them we did 2, disproportionately impacted student categories. So you can see where the X's are, which groups that we are proposing some specific remedies for throughout this plan. In the earlier presentation, they talked about some of the professional development. One of the things that we have probably been missing in years past is intentional professional development for faculty and staff aimed at revising, strengthening our curriculum, strengthening our methodology in the classroom to intentionally ensure that we are addressing the needs of our students. So I encourage you to spend some time with this, because this plan is written to dovetail completely with our quality focus essay projects. One is about outcomes and one is about the campus culture. So this dovetails with that. And also with a cohort we will be soon joining nationwide for the cohort is entitled Achieving Equitable Outcomes. And also everything about the student journey dovetails with our guided pathways plan. So you'll notice that all of the plans of the campus, student equity, accreditation, guided pathways, they're all dovetailing together to lay out the scope of work over the next 3 years so that we can address these equity gaps. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Dr. Salad. Okay, we have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President, I have a few comments to make on this. The president mentioned page 5, and assessment results are not available by program to determine comparative results that might indicate success or needs improvement. I mean, in other words, we don't know. Is that what you're saying in the report? We don't know. In that sentence, they're not available to determine comparative results that might indicate success or needs improvement by program.
So we do have multiple ways of disaggregating the data, but by these categories or state categories, some of them intersect with our local categories as well, but not all of them do. We could write a program that our data folks could by program disaggregate this and find it out for us. But we didn't have it available at this point in time when we were writing this report.
Well, I commend you for putting this together. I know you had a big part of this, because I remember my graduate days, I had to put something like this together, and I know the hard work. However, in some of the pages, you allude to studies, you don't mention the studies. You say studies. So is that going to pass muster with the chancellor's office? Let's say that.
Yes, because the chancellor's office has 116 of these that are coming in, and right. they do read them, they do look at them. They're not going to grade it as if it were an essay and look for the citations. It is best practice to put them in. I agree with you, and in the future, I will make sure that it's done.
Okay. Yeah. In the paper, the plan, you mentioned where we're following students, and you've heard me say that many times. Yep. I commend our new vice president, because she knows what I'm talking about. To follow the students, I would hope that that gets to be emphasis on equity and achievement, that we follow the students the minute they come on campus to they leave, and we meet their needs. We meet their needs, not they have to ask us, but we're aware of their needs and we act on them. So it's a good report. Thank you very much. But I hope we don't forget about following the students. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any more discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
14.3, approval of 22-23 COVID-19 Emergency Conditions Recovery Plan Mid-Year Update. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.4, approval of non-resident and capital outlay fee rates for 23-24. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.5, approval of audits and financials, 21-22, district audit, Measure AV financial statements, Measure AV performance audit, and OPEB. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.6, approval of professional service agreement with CWDL CPAs for independent audit services provided during fiscal years 23 to 27. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
He approved, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.7, approval of the Antelope Valley Community College District AVCCD and Antelope Valley Federation of Classified Employees AVCFCE 23-24 classification process timeline. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.8, approval of academic policies and procedures, AP&P committee's recommendations of course listing. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.9, approval of Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for Measure AV membership appointment. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.10, approval of contract with Asset Works LLC for fixed asset inventory services. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
Approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.11, approval to extend the use of the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance's cooperative agreement with Norstan Communications Incorporated, doing business as Black Box Network Services for the purchase of digital media management and mass notification purchases. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President. I'm sorry, I don't understand this. Can somebody explain it?
Good evening, Trustee Reeves. This is our rave mass notification system that the college sends an alert out for if there is any need to alert campus community of any emergencies or any other issues.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.12, approval to extend the use of the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Cooperative Agreement through NASPO Value Point and the California Department of General Services for the purchase of computer-related equipment, software, and services. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
Approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.13, approval of amendment number 2 with CWDL CPAs for independent audit services provided during fiscal year 2022-2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.14, approval of amendment number 1 of the district's 3-year UJA Incorporated Services Agreement, adding Panorama accessibility software. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.15, approval to purchase managed texting services from SARS Software Products. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.16, approval to utilize the California Multiple Award Schedule, CMAS, with Dell Marketing LP for the purchase of information technology, goods, and services. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.17, approval to utilize the Foundation for California Community Colleges Master Agreement with Olympus for purchase of science products. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 14.18, approval to utilize Sourcewell's master agreement with Snap-on Industrial for the purchase of vehicle lifts and garage fleet maintenance equipment. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Board, with your approval, I would like to group 14.19, 14.20, 14.21, and 14.22 as they all deal with HERF funds. So that being said, may I have a motion to approve those 4 action items?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President. Those funds, those are the COVID funds we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
So we have authorization to use those COVID funds on all these projects.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Board, with your approval, I'd like to ask to group 14.23 action item through 14.29. These are all related to Measure AV funds. So that would be 7 action items. I can count. 7 action items. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President. 14.23, delegation of authority to superintendent president to contract for student service, building, landscape, and irrigation with Measure AV funds. Does that mean we're not going out for contract, or the president can pick whomever she wants?
It's giving me permission to instruct the staff to carry out the business to make sure we get the landscaping done. So that's all that language means when the board delegates the authority to me. to enter into the contracts. That just allows us to do the business.
But would you ask for bids on the contracts or you just,
Shami will address the bidding process.
okay?
Yes, the bidding process is followed. All this does is allow us to proceed without waiting until the next board meeting. So all of our formal bidding process is followed here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both.
Any more discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes for the 7 action items. Okay, 15 information items. Board 15.1 through 15.6 are here as first readings for you. I'd like to refer to Dr. Sellett for 15.7.
15.7 is the revision of Administrative Procedure 6305, addressing our reserves. And when we first submitted our emergency report for those funds, part of the conditions of receiving those funds was that our administrative procedure be amended to indicate that our institutional reserves would be 17%. And due to the timelines, this policy is due, compliance with that is due the 28th of February. And so we'd like to ask that the board consider waiving the rules and passing this in one reading. Instead of this being the first reading, make a motion, pass it this meeting, if you would, please.
Okay.
Shami, you want to say something?
We could, if we could include board policy 6200, reserve policy. 15.4.
15.4. Okay, so that's board policy and AP 6200 as well as 6305. Sorry, Shami.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, is this the first reading of this? This will come back?
This is for action. These 2 items, if I understand correctly, Mr. Farrar, 15.4 and 15.7 will not come back.
They will not come back. The Chancellor's Office has a deadline of February 28th to get our reserves updated to align with GFOA requirements for having a 2-month reserve to qualify for the ECA funding.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Advice?
I approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, reports and announcements. 16.1, Academic Senate.
Not much to report. Business is kind of going on as usual. So good evening, everybody. We have all of our guided pathways co-chairs are in place. So that's super exciting. Like, you don't know how hard I rode that horse, but we have the instructional faculty, we have the counseling faculty, they're in place. So they're going to get to work on the 21st of February. We have the Chancellor's Office coming here with the PRT team. We have 18 positions, faculty positions coming up this spring. So we're working hard to get people on tenure committees and hiring committees. And we're working on some resolutions. The honors convocation, sneak peek, it's going to be April 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. So mark your calendar. We're looking forward to seeing you there. That's about it. Thank you.
Antelope Valley College Federation of Teachers, Dr. Bowen.
Good evening, everyone, and it's so good to see all of you, ladies and gentlemen of the board, President Zillette, General Counsel Bridget Cook, Patricia McClure, good to see you. It's always difficult to, complete a presentation or a discussion in the allotted amount of time that we're given. I'm grateful that the board decided to grant additional time for the presenters earlier this evening, and I'm especially grateful that all of the students were given a chance to share their stories and experiences. That was the highlight of the evening for me, actually. The faculty union is currently in negotiations with the district. Earlier in the semester, we set the dates to negotiate over the spring semester, and we had our first negotiations meeting last week, and I'm looking forward to completing negotiations and obtaining a successor agreement that is more than acceptable to both parties, the institution. Of course, we want it to benefit the entire community, students, et cetera. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 16.3, Antelope Valley College Federation of Classified Employees, Ms. Ford.
Good evening, everyone. I'm extraordinarily happy this evening. My son's team, the Chiefs, won, so here I am representing. I wanted to say that classified always rise to the occasion. Every one of these moves that we make from old buildings to new buildings, the transitions go off without a hitch because classified are doing the work and we get it done. And so there's nothing different about that this time, moving into the Student Services building, which is a beautiful building. And as we settle in, we're adding to the punch list of things that need to be fixed or completed. So, and today categorical programs came up with a date to schedule an orientation so our students can come through and see the new building and where their services reside. But what's most unique about classified is whether or not we have management around, whether or not there are changes going on around us, we get the work done. And classified, if they have changes in leadership, if there are periods of time when there's no management around, we get it done. Classified are a dynamic group of people that regardless of what's going on, our students are served. And I just don't want any one of you to forget that because we get the work done. This campus could probably go on for weeks, months, days, and years, and the work would get done. Because although you make the decisions at the top, we carry it out. And as quiet as it's kept, we can make those decisions too. So I just want you to know that you need to be holding your heads up high and feeling a lot of respect for our classified. Classified have been extraordinarily patient as we slowly navigate our way through negotiations with the cost of increase in benefits, groceries, gasoline, and of course, utilities. I mean, I'm about to go couch surfing because my utility bills were so high. So anyway, I might be looking to y'all for a room. But we've got to get negotiations completed. And so both sides have committed to getting together with their teams and ironing out what we need to work on. So I'm appreciative to Bridget, to Arian, and all of our team for working together to try to get negotiations settled. I do want to make one clarification though. There was someone who spoke this evening and said that there was a classified employee who received a year and was an award and was recognized for a year. That was not a classified bargaining unit member. That was a classified employee who was in the confidential management supervisory group. I don't begrudge her the award, but it sure would have been nice for classified to have some say in that award so that truly one of our classified employees could have been recognized. I also want to talk a little bit about, I'm on the Chancellor's Consultation Council panel, and it's an interesting experience because you learn all about policy, you learn about the Chancellor's decisions and impacts on what we do at the community college level. And one of the things that she's adamant about is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And I just want to say that I hope that our district embraces that in a real way. I listened to the students who came up here tonight and talked about the services that they receive through our district. And that's admirable. But we've got so much more work to do. I am a person of color, and I feel the impact on this campus that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the decision-making processes, how we deal with one another. And I'm very appreciative. We have a new president. The board meetings haven't been contentious. They haven't been filled with strife. And that I credit to Dr. Zealot because she's committed to that. But that commitment needs to extend further because as the scripture says, we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. And so there are going to be employees on this campus who are going to make mistakes, who are going to act in error. And it's easy to make the decision of basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But sometimes we need to think about our decisions and think about that these are people that have been committed to the district for years. And so as you have to go through and make decisions, just make sure that you're really thinking about the impact of everybody. And also, one other thing I want to add is congratulations to the new Vice President of Student Services. I'm looking forward to working with her. And I'm hoping that things will continue to move forward on a positive trend. Thank you.
And just so you know, I let you finish, Pam. I didn't cut you off.
Thank you for not dinging that dang bell.
It buzzed. You just didn't hear it.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Confidential Management Supervisory, Ms. Hernandez.
Oh, good evening once again. I do want to extend, I have congratulations tonight. So congratulations to our new VP of Student Services, VP Reyes. And then I'd also like to recognize that we have 3 new members of the CMSA board. We did have some folks who retired, who went away, and have made great strides in the next journey of their lives. And so we have for confidential management supervisors, we have Sherry Burkholder, who will represent the confidential. We have Daniel Connor, who will represent management, and Ashley Hawkins, who will represent the supervisors. So we add them to our board. They will join myself, Greg Borman, and Nichelle Williams on the CMSA board. Thank you.
Thank you. Associated Student Organization, Diana Ferrasoli. Here, okay. Antelope Valley College Federation, Diane Knipple. Not here, I thought I saw her. Okay. Office of Superintendent President, Dr. Zealot.
Good evening, trustees and student trustee. Welcome to week 6 of spring semester 2023 in the celebration of Black History Month. There have been many activities on campus highlighting Black history and its significance in all our lives. I want to thank Student Services and all of the various departments within for creating events like Melanated Mondays, where films are presented and discussed, drum circles and drum making, listening to and discussing music, and other workshops devoted to healing and to self-growth. Regardless of background, those who choose to participate come away enlightened and better for having learned. We are growing together as a community, and the way we get better together is to reach beyond boundaries that have traditionally been imposed and choose not to set up boundaries between ourselves. As president of this college, I am working for a unified campus where students are welcome in all spaces, see every employee as an ally, and know that their success is our primary goal. I'd like to give you a brief enrollment update. Today, our enrollments are as follows. Our FTES are 3,725, which is approximately 500 more than last spring and 200 more than 2021. Our unduplicated headcount is 11,516, approximately 1,300 more than last spring and 500 more than 2021. Congratulations to everyone on the campus, faculty and classified professionals alike, and our CMS leaders who are recruiting the students, onboarding them, bringing them in, supporting them, and teaching them. Now our attention is turned to student retention and success, and faculty and classified professionals across the campus are doing all we can to ensure students are successful. And once again, my friend Pamela Ford has beat me to the punch. Many, many, many thanks to the Student Services classified professionals, faculty administrators who accomplished the Herculean task of moving from the old SSV to our new Student Services building. I'm grateful for the hours spent packing, moving, unpacking, and serving each other and students. Transitions are not easy. but this has been an incredibly exciting transition to watch. And the times that I've been in the building, I've been so moved by the way our students can efficiently be served in this new setting. As we await the completion of the Commons, services for first and second year experience, Dreamers, Puente, Umoja, and LGBTQ+ will be found in the hub. We will no longer say old in front of any building. We will not say Old Learning Center. The name was voted on even by students, and so the name is the hub. We are excited to offer space centrally located on campus to ensure that students who are complex individuals and may need services from more than one of these offices at the same time can access multiple services in one space. Now for some introductions, which have already been made. I want to thank the selection committee chaired by Dr. Howard Davis, who worked so diligently on the search for our Assistant Superintendent, Vice President of Student Services. I am very pleased to announce that Ms. Adania Reyes has accepted the position and the board approved her appointment this evening. Adania will be joining us on March 15th. New beginnings also mean that there has been an ending as well. And I would like to take this opportunity to recognize Dr. Jose Rivera. He has been the least interim of interims I have ever met. What I mean by that is this: he approached every day as if he were here indefinitely. He leads boldly, collaboratively, and with students at the fore. He has been a valuable colleague, and we send him back to Texas with our gratitude and the knowledge that he is always one of us. Dr. Rivera always said, "Juntos somos fuertes, we're stronger together." Y señor, espero que usted y Linda vivan el sueño. There are more great announcements to come this week regarding Antelope Valley College, so stay tuned. As we move through the next month, we will continue to serve students and be kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zealot. Board member comments. Corey.
I only have one thing to say, that we should support our athletes, and I have nothing else to say.
Mr. Buffalo.
Welcome aboard, Adania. I'm excited you're here. Thought you did a great job in that interview. So looking forward to working with you. I had a chance to tour the new student services building. Very bright, very airy, very exciting, and a lot of people, I had a chance to talk to them, and they seem to really like it. They like the fact that they are no longer sharing space. And I think it's just a real asset to the college. I understand it's incredible lit up at night. I haven't seen that yet. So it's always good to hear the presentations. They were a lot of enthusiasm and passion tonight. It's always good to hear from our students. I look forward to hearing more from our students. And I will say that I understand and what you were saying down there with regarding Gatorade. I'm not sure what that's all about. I've got to ask questions, I guess. And certainly I understand the other part of that, the finances with everything shooting up. So I'm very aware, and I'll talk to people. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I want to welcome the new vice president. Welcome aboard. And I also want to say goodbye, but not farewell, to our departing vice president, Jose Rivera. You and Linda and I had a great time at all the ball games during the summertime and in the fall. And I'm really going to miss you, and I wish you well in Texas. And I hope you stay in touch with me and the college in the future. And for all of you, especially the men, who better stop and get some candy and flowers, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Adania. Looking forward to working with you. And thank you so much for all the work you gave us, Dr. Rivera. It really showed. I always say that the number of phone calls we get regarding student services from the campus reflects how well the VP of Student Services is doing. And I received no phone calls during the entire time you were here. So great job.
Ms. Harvey.
Yes, I would like to applaud the bravery of our students to stand and to speak in front of the board and to communicate their beliefs and their passions. I believe it's really important. So I want to applaud them for that. And to let them know that we hear them, we are listening. District staff working with the auditors on the unmodified opinion, that was excellent work, specifically around the federal compliance. There was so much money flowing over the past year. I'm sure that was a heavy lift. So good job to the finance team for meeting the compliance for Measure AB, federal and state, including the performance, and to know that there are good controls in place. Ms. Reyes, we are so glad that you are here. Student services are very important, and we look forward to the wonderful job you will do. And Dr. Rivera, thank you for your service. We really appreciate that. Last but not least, I would like to say Happy Black History Month as we celebrate the contributions of African Americans to the history of this great country. So thank you, President Gay.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Let's see where to begin. First of all, I just have to say that, a few months ago, I encouraged Ms. Ford and Ms. Cook to get along, but I don't know what to say. It's like they have just become BFFs, and I'm really excited about that. I don't know what's going to happen in the months to come, but hey, I'm all in favor of it. So ladies, great to see you just, making exceptions and everything for Ms. Ford. This is wonderful, wonderful news. I also you have to work on Dr. Bowen. Poor Dr. Bowen. Don't worry, Dr. Bowen. Yes, don't worry. Don't worry. We'll take care of you. Okay. I want to say to Dr. Rivera that I know you probably don't know this, but someone said to me that someone near and dear to me that you approached them and you were so very, very kind and offered assistance. And when I was hearing this story, my gut feeling was telling me that this was not a unique experience for Dr. Rivera, but something that was very, very much part of who you are. And I think it reflected during your time here at Antelope Valley Community College. I'm sad to see you go, but I'm sure that you're anxious to get back to Texas, and I wish you the very, very best in all your future endeavors. And thank you for serving our students here at Antelope Valley Community College. Yes. And Idania Reyes, you're probably like, oh, I'm so glad that's over. I know what that's like. And welcome. We're looking forward to you. You have some big shoes to fill. No, just kidding. But Dr. Rivera did a great job. So we know that you're anxious to probably get started, and we're excited for you to take on that new role and responsibility here. So welcome to Antelope Valley Community College. I just want to say that I love this. The big part of this evening was listening to our students, our veterans, our students. I had questions, but I knew it would drag on about the cohort for Puente cohort and how we're really, really assessing the data and looking at the data from this cohorts of kids going through year after year, but another time. But I just wanted to say that I hope that Antelope Valley Community College never loses sight of why we're here, and that's to serve students. Let me repeat that. That is to serve students. And without our students, none of us would have a need to be here on this college. So like Mr. Reeves, it is Valentine's Day tomorrow. And gentlemen, I hope you're not like my husband. He thinks Valentine's Day is just another day to take men's money. So please stop on the way home, get some candy, get some flowers, do something, and make that special someone feel really good tomorrow. So with that, we will not be going back into closed session, and I will adjourn this meeting at 8:53.